First Contact and the Ancient War. The quantum sensors aboard the U.S. Star Destroyer lit up like a Christmas tree in Times Square. Captain Sarah Chen watched as her science officer, Dr. James Murphy, frantically calibrated and recalibrated the instruments, his weathered hands dancing across the holographic interface. They had jumped into the Sagittarius arm expecting to find dead space. Instead, they found themselves in the middle of what looked like hell itself. Captain, these readings, Murphy's Irish lilt carried an edge of disbelief. They're off the bloody charts. We're picking up temporal distortions, quantum fluctuations, and energy signatures that shouldn't even be possible. Through the bridge's panoramic viewport, the crew watched in stunned silence as massive vessels, each larger than Earth's moon, traded salvos of what looked like liquid starlight. Space itself seemed to tear and mend with each impact, reality buckling under forces that defied comprehension. Multiple contacts incoming. Lieutenant Commander Yuki Tanaka reported from tactical, her usually steady voice wavering. 3 vessels on an intercept course. Configuration unknown. Nothing like the others we're seeing. Chen straightened in her command chair, adjusting her uniform's collar. Humanity's first deep space exploration vessel, equipped with their revolutionary quantum drive, had just stumbled into something far bigger than their mandate to map the galaxy's outer reaches. Open channels, all frequencies, she ordered. Let's not start a diplomatic incident on our first day out here. Before communications could comply, a voice filled the bridge, not through speakers, but seemingly emanating from the air itself. It spoke in a language that felt like mathematics given sound, complex equations, and quantum formulae transformed into speech. The ship's AI, immediately began translating. They're greeting us, but there's more. They're expressing surprise at our temporal signature. The approaching vessels slowed, taking positions around the Star Destroyer in what Chen hoped was a defensive rather than aggressive formation. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, crystalline structures that seemed to exist in more dimensions than human eyes could process. A hologram materialized on the bridge, a being composed of shifting geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. When it spoke again, Araya translated seamlessly. "Children of Earth," the being said, its patterns fluctuating with each word. "You have wandered into the final days of an 800,000-year war. I am Admiral Zexthor of the Quantum Concordat. Your arrival was predicted, though not for another 1,000,000 years." Chen exchanged glances with her XO, Commander David Santos, before responding. "Admiral, I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Ship Star Destroyer. We're peaceful explorers, ho." "Peace," Zexthor interrupted, its patterns turning dark. "Peace died when the Entropy Collective began their crusade to accelerate the heat death of the universe. We fight not for territory or resources, but for the fundamental right of existence itself." Murphy's console beeped urgently. "Captain, those energy signatures we're detecting. They're consistent with our quantum drive research, but magnified beyond anything we thought possible. They're literally fighting with the fabric of space-time itself." Zexthor's patterns shifted to something that might have been approval. "Your species' grasp of quantum mechanics is unique. You developed quantum technology without first mastering basic space folding, a technological path deemed impossible by both our side and the collective." The bridge shuddered as another battle unfolded in the distance, the massive ships still trading their reality-warping blows. Chen watched as a vessel the size of Jupiter simply ceased to exist, taking its crew of millions with it. "Admiral," Chen said carefully, "you mentioned our arrival was predicted. Why?" The hologram expanded, showing a mathematical model so complex it made Chen's head hurt. "Your species developed quantum technology through a path no other civilization has taken. You approached it not as a way to manipulate space, but as a tool for computation and communication. This difference may be the key to ending this war." Murphy's eyes widened as he studied the model. "Captain, they're right. Our quantum approach is completely different from what they're showing. We treated quantum mechanics as a language rather than a weapon. The implications are profound, Zexthor finished. Your primitive quantum drive contains principles that neither we nor the collective fully understand. Principles that, if weaponized, could end this war in less than an hour. Chen felt the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. Her exploration mission had just transformed into something far more significant. Humanity, barely able to reach beyond its solar system, might hold the key to ending a war that had raged since before Earth's first multicellular organisms evolved. "Admiral," she said, standing to face the hologram directly, "tell us what you need." The battle outside intensified, but now Chen saw it differently. This wasn't just cosmic warfare, it was desperation. Two ancient civilizations locked in a dance of death, fighting with forces that threatened to unravel reality itself. And somehow, humanity's stumbling first steps into quantum physics might offer a way out. "First," Zexthor said, its pattern shifting to something almost hopeful, "we need to understand how your species approached quantum mechanics so differently. Then we need to adapt your principles to end this war before it tears the galaxy apart. We have less than 50 minutes before the collective launches their final offensive, an attack that will accelerate entropy across this entire sector of space." Time, it seemed, was not on their side. The quantum advantage. Dr. Murphy's hands flew across his workstation as he transferred Earth's quantum communication protocols to the Concordat systems. The bridge of the U.S. Star Destroyer had transformed into a war room, with holographic displays showing battle formations that spanned light years. Captain Chen watched as Murphy worked, acutely aware of each passing second. "It's like comparing stone tools to antimatter weapons," Murphy muttered, his eyes reflecting the cascade of quantum equations flooding his screen. "But sometimes the simplest solution is the most elegant." He looked up at Zexthor's hovering form. "Your civilizations approached quantum mechanics as a way to manipulate reality. We approached it as a way to talk to it." Commander Santos leaned over Murphy's shoulder, his dark eyes narrowing. "The quantum entanglement network we use for FTL communication. It's not just sending signals, is it? It's creating a dialogue with spacetime itself." "Precisely." Zexthor's geometric form pulsed with what might have been excitement. "Your species stumbled upon quantum consciousness without even realizing it. You treated reality as a partner rather than a resource to be exploited." Another blast rocked the ship as the battle raged on. Through the viewport, they watched as an entropy collective vessel transformed an entire star system into a temporal void, erasing billions of years of potential life in an instant. Lieutenant Commander Tanaka's hands tightened on her tactical console. 43 minutes until the collective's final offensive. Whatever we're going to do, it needs to happen soon. Chen turned to Murphy. "Doctor, explain it to me in terms a starship captain can understand. What exactly did we discover?" Murphy took a deep breath. "The Concordat and the collective, they're like boxers in a ring, throwing quantum punches at reality. But we're like dancers. We learn to move with reality's natural rhythms. Our quantum drive doesn't force space to bend. It asks space to bend, and space complies because we're working with its natural frequencies. And this helps us how?" Santos asked, voicing everyone's growing concern. Zexthor's form expanded, displaying a complex tactical overlay. "The collective's weapons tear at spacetime's fabric. Each shot creates microscopic singularities that accelerate entropy. But your approach," the hologram shifted, showing Earth's quantum communication network. "Your technology could theoretically harmonize with spacetime instead of fighting it. A quantum resonance cascade that could nullify their weapons entirely. More than that," Murphy added, his eyes lighting up with sudden understanding. "We could use their own attacks against them. Every weapon they fire creates quantum disturbances. If we can synchronize our quantum network with those disturbances, we could turn their entropy acceleration against them." Chen finished, beginning to understand. "But wouldn't that require a sacrifice?" Zexthor confirmed. "Your ship's quantum drive would need to serve as the focal point. The resonance cascade would start here, using the Star Destroyer as a quantum lens to amplify and redirect the collective's own entropy weapons. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Their ship, Earth's proudest achievement, would have to be the catalyst for a reaction that would rewrite the laws of physics across an entire sector of space. "The math checks out," Murphy said quietly. "But Captain, initiating this cascade, there's no guarantee the ship would survive the feedback loop. We'd be surfing a quantum tsunami with a paper boat." Chen walked to the viewport, watching the battle that had raged for longer than her entire species had existed. In the distance, another star system vanished, consumed by the collective's entropy weapons. How many more would die if they didn't act? "What about the crew?" she asked, not turning around. "The quantum shielding should protect us," Murphy replied, though his tone carried little confidence. "But we'd be at the heart of a reality warping event, the largest in known history." "Time check," Chen called out. 38 minutes until the collective's final offensive," Tanaka reported crisply. Chen turned back to her crew, seeing the mix of fear and determination on their faces. They had come to explore the galaxy, not save it. But sometimes destiny had other plans. "Begin the modifications," she ordered. "Dr. Murphy, you have 15 minutes to adapt our quantum drive. Commander Santos, coordinate with the Concordat fleet. I want every ship in position to amplify our signal when the time comes. Lieutenant Commander Tanaka, plot us a course to these coordinates." She pointed to a spot on the tactical display where the battlefield's quantum disturbances converge. As her crew rushed to comply, Chen felt a strange calm settle over her. In less than an hour, they would either save the galaxy or join the countless civilizations that had already fallen in this ancient war. The fate of entire galaxies would depend on humanity's unique perspective, their ability to see quantum mechanics not as a weapon, but as a conversation with reality itself. "Admiral Zexthor," she said, addressing the geometric being that had watched their discussion in calculating silence, "I hope your civilization remembers that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to find new ways to solve old problems." The alien admiral's form shifted into a pattern that somehow conveyed both respect and sadness. "If we survive the next hour, Captain, I promise you, the galaxy will never forget." Operation Timeline. The U.S. Star Destroyer's quantum drive hummed with a new frequency that set teeth on edge and made the air taste like metal. Dr. Murphy hadn't left his station for the past 20 minutes, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces as he reprogrammed the very heart of their ship. Around them, the Concordat fleet had arranged itself in a complex geometric pattern that, according to Zexthor, would amplify their quantum resonance. "Drive modifications at 87%, Murphy reported, sweat beading on his forehead. "But Captain, there's something you need to know. The quantum harmonics, they're starting to affect local spacetime already. We're seeing temporal echoes." As if to illustrate his point, an afterimage of Chen appeared next to her, moving slightly out of sync before fading away. The crew tried to ignore the increasingly common occurrence of seeing themselves perform actions they hadn't taken yet, or perhaps had already taken, temporal causality becoming as uncertain as quantum states. 23 minutes until the collective's final offensive, Tanaka announced, her voice steady despite the ghost images of herself checking readings that hadn't appeared yet. Commander Santos monitored the fleet positions, his dark eyes tracking the massive Concordat vessels as they locked into their final formation. "Concordat ships report ready, Captain. Their quantum sensors are aligned with ours. When we initiate the cascade, their ships will act as amplification nodes." Chen nodded, watching through the viewport as reality itself seemed to blur around them. The Entropy Collective's forces had begun to mass on the edge of the battlefield, their world-killing weapons charging with energy that threatened to unravel the fabric of space itself. "Status of the quantum network?" she asked, forcing herself to focus on the present moment, or what she hoped was the present moment. Murphy consulted his readings. "The network is stable, But strange. It's like the quantum field is anticipating our actions. The harmonics we're generating are creating a sort of temporal feedback loop. Our past, present, and future actions are all influencing each other. Explain, Chen demanded, even as she watched another version of herself ask the same question from a slightly different position. Think of it like ripples in a pond, Murphy said, gesturing to the complex quantum diagrams floating around him. Except these ripples are moving both forward and backward in time. The collective's entropy weapons work by accelerating time's arrow toward heat death. But our quantum network, it's creating a closed temporal loop, a perfect circle of causality. And that helps us how? Santos asked, his voice echoing slightly as temporal duplicates of himself asked the same question microseconds apart. Zexthor's geometric form expanded, its patterns shifting in ways that seemed to mirror the temporal distortions around them. Your quantum harmonics are not just affecting space, but time itself. When the collective launches their final assault, their entropy acceleration will feed into our temporal loop. They seek to accelerate the end of time. We will use that very acceleration to create a moment of perfect quantum harmony. 18 minutes, Tanaka reported, her voice overlapping with echoes of the same morning from different temporal frames. Chen watched as Murphy made the final adjustments to their quantum drive, the temporal echoes of his actions creating a strange choreography of overlapping movements. The bridge crew had stopped trying to determine which version of events was real. In the quantum realm they had entered, perhaps all of them were. Drive modifications complete, Murphy announced, his words rippling through several frames of time simultaneously. But Captain, there's another complication. The temporal feedback. It's starting to affect our memories. Crew members are reporting remembering events that haven't happened yet. As if to prove his point, Chen found herself completing his sentence in her mind before he spoke it. She had memories of conversations yet to occur, decisions yet to be made. The quantum harmonics were bleeding through their consciousness, making time itself fluid and uncertain. The collective's fleet is in motion, Santos reported, his tactical display showing the enemy vessels moving into attack formation. Energy readings are off the charts. Whatever they're planning, it's bigger than anything we've seen so far. Chen stood from her command chair, temporal echoes of herself mirroring the action across several frames of reference. This is it, then. Everything we've prepared for. Dr. Murphy, begin the quantum resonance sequence. Commander Santos, signal the Concordat fleet to synchronize their quantum fields with ours. Lieutenant Commander Tanaka, take us into position. As the Star Destroyer moved toward its designated coordinates, Chen felt reality itself bend around them. Through the viewport, she could see the massive collective fleet preparing their final assault. Weapons that could accelerate entropy across entire galactic sectors, charging with impossible energy. But now, watching the temporal echoes of events yet to come, she saw something else. Hope. Humanity's unique approach to quantum mechanics wasn't just a different way of manipulating reality. It was a way of dancing with it, of turning the very forces of entropy into a closed loop of endless possibility. Quantum resonance cascade initiating, Murphy announced, his words echoing through time itself. Captain, whatever happens next, it's been an honor. Chen watched as the space around them began to crystallize with quantum potential, the combined power of the Concordat fleet amplifying their signal. In 15 minutes, they would either save the galaxy or become another casualty in an 800,000-year war. But for now, suspended in this moment of infinite possibility, they were making history, or perhaps, more accurately, they were rewriting it. The final gambit. Time fractured around the U.S. Star Destroyer as the quantum resonance cascade reached critical levels. Through the kaleidoscope of temporal distortions, Captain Chen watched as the Entropy Collective's fleet began their final approach. Their massive ships, each one capable of erasing entire star systems from existence, moved with terrible purpose. 10 minutes until their primary weapons reach full charge, Tanaka reported, her voice seeming to come from multiple points in space-time simultaneously. The entropy acceleration fields they're generating. They're beyond anything our sensors can measure. Murphy's hands flew across his console, making microscopic adjustments to their quantum harmonics as reality itself threatened to unravel around them. Captain, I'm detecting something extraordinary. The temporal loops we're generating. They're not just echoing through time. They're creating convergence points. Explain, Chen commanded, even as temporal echoes of herself issued the same order across multiple frames of reference. It's like, Murphy paused, searching for words to describe the impossible. Like time itself, this folding. Our quantum network isn't just creating loops, it's creating nodes where multiple time streams intersect. And at these nodes, the laws of physics become fluid. Zexthor's geometric form interrupted, its patterns shifting with new understanding. Your quantum harmonics are not just affecting space or time, but the fundamental constants of the universe itself. You've created quantum focal points where reality becomes negotiable. Through the viewport, Chen watched as space itself began to crystallize around these convergence points. The Concordat fleet's formation now made sense. They weren't just amplifying the Star Destroyer's signal, they were creating a vast geometric pattern of quantum nodes, each one a point where the rules of reality could be rewritten. 7 minutes, Tanaka announced, her temporal echoes creating a chorus of warnings. Santos studied the tactical display with growing concern. The collective's fleet. They're not stopping. Either they don't see what we're doing, or they think they can overwhelm it. Chen finished. She turned to Murphy. Doctor, what happens when their entropy weapons hit our quantum network? Murphy's expression was grim. Theoretically, the acceleration of entropy they're generating should feed back through our temporal loops. Instead of spreading out across space, the effect will be contained within our network, amplified by the Concordat fleet's formation. But what? But we're talking about concentrating enough entropy to end multiple galaxies into a space the size of a solar system. The physics involved, it's beyond anything we can predict. We could end up creating a new universe, or erasing this one entirely. Chen felt the weight of the moment press down on her. Not just this moment, but all the temporal variants of it occurring simultaneously around them. Through the quantum distortions, she could see fragments of other possibilities. Versions where they failed, versions where they succeeded, versions where different choices led to unimaginable outcomes. 4 minutes until full charge, Tanaka reported. Captain, Santos said quietly, we're seeing signs of quantum entanglement between our ship and the convergence points. If we proceed, there's no guarantee we'll survive what happens next. Chen stood, temporal echoes of herself rippling through multiple frames of reference. We didn't come here to survive. We came here to explore, to understand, to make a difference. And now we have the chance to end a war that's raged since before our species existed. She turned to Zexthor's hovering form. Admiral, signal your fleet. When the collective fires their weapons, every ship needs to channel their quantum resonance through the nearest convergence point. We're going to turn their own entropy acceleration against them. The geometric being's patterns shifted in what might have been acknowledgement. It will be done. But Captain, you should know. The calculation suggests that the Star Destroyer, at the center of this quantum web, will experience the full force of the temporal feedback. Your ship will become the focal point of enough entropy to end multiple galaxies. 2 minutes, Tanaka announced, her voice steady despite the temporal distortions that made it echo across multiple timeframes. Murphy looked up from his console, his eyes meeting Chen's. The quantum harmonics are reaching critical levels. Once the collective fires, we'll have microseconds to perfect our resonance frequency. If we're off by even a fraction, we won't be, Chen said with a certainty that echoed across all possible timelines. This is what humanity does best. We take the impossible and make it inevitable. We see patterns where others see chaos. We find harmony where others hear noise. Through the viewport, the collective's weapons began to glow with impossible energy, reality itself warping around their charged entropy accelerators. The Star Destroyer's quantum drive hummed at frequencies that made reality shiver, the ship becoming the heart of a web of temporal convergence points that could either save or end everything. 1 minute, Tanaka reported, as the crew watched their past, present, and future selves prepare for the moment that would define not just their lives, but the fate of multiple galaxies. Chen took her command chair one final time, temporal echoes of the action rippling through space-time like waves in a cosmic ocean. "All hands," she announced, her voice carrying across all possible timelines. "Prepare for quantum resonance cascade. Whatever happens next, we make history today." The Entropy Collective's weapons reached full charge, reality itself screaming in protest as they prepared to unleash enough acceleration to end trillions of lives. But around them, the quantum web waited, a dance of possibility orchestrated by humanity's unique understanding of the universe's deepest rhythms. Legacy of 50 minutes. The universe held its breath. In the instant the Entropy Collective's weapons fired, reality itself seemed to pause, countless temporal echoes converging into a single, perfect moment of possibility. Captain Chen watched as streams of pure entropy, enough to end entire galaxies, lanced toward their position. "Quantum resonance at maximum," Murphy shouted, his voice somehow cutting through the impossible frequencies that filled the bridge. Concordat fleet synchronized. Convergence points are stable. The entropy beams struck their quantum web. For a fraction of a second, nothing happened. Then, everything happened at once. Time shattered. The U.S. Star Destroyer became the focal point of reality itself, their quantum harmonics catching the entropy acceleration and turning it back on itself. Through the viewport, Chen watched as space-time crystallized around them, the laws of physics bending to accommodate forces never meant to be contained in such a small space. "The temporal feedback," Murphy called out, his words splitting across multiple timeframes. "It's creating a cascade effect. The entropy isn't just being reflected, it's being reformed." Around them, the Concordat fleet's formation blazed with impossible energies as they channeled the quantum resonance through the convergence points. The Entropy Collective's weapons, designed to accelerate the heat death of the universe, found themselves caught in a closed loop of perpetual renewal. "Status," Chen demanded, her voice echoing across 1,000 possible presents. "The quantum harmonics," Murphy replied, his eyes wide with wonder. "They're not just containing the entropy. They're transforming it. The temporal loops, they're creating a perfect cycle, a quantum perpetual motion machine." Through the kaleidoscope of fractured timelines, Chen saw it happening. The entropy acceleration, caught in their quantum web, wasn't destroying reality, it was renewing it. Each convergence point became a nexus of creation, turning the very forces meant to end the universe into catalysts for its rebirth. "The Collective's fleet," Santos reported, his tactical display showing impossible readings. "Their weapons, they're being affected by the quantum feedback. The entropy acceleration is flowing backwards through their systems." Zexthor's geometric form pulsed with what might have been joy. "You've done it. In 50 minutes you've accomplished what we couldn't in 800,000 years. You haven't just stopped the entropy acceleration. You've reversed it." The bridge crew watched in awe as the effects spread across the battlefield. The Entropy Collective's mighty ships, built to hasten the universe's death, found their weapons transforming into fountains of creation. Stars that had been erased blinked back into existence. Dead systems bloomed with new life. "Their fleet is retreating," Tanaka announced, though her voice held more wonder than triumph. "The entropy feedback, it's changed them. Their weapons won't work anymore. Not here, not anywhere. The quantum resonance has rewritten the underlying physics that made them possible." But victory came with a price. The Star Destroyer shuddered as reality tried to reassert itself, the ship groaning under forces that threatened to tear it apart. "Captain," Murphy called out urgently, "the quantum drive is reaching critical levels. We're at the heart of a reality warping event, the biggest in universal history. The temporal feedback is creating a permanent change in the fabric of spacetime, Zexthor finished. Your ship, at the center of it all, is becoming a quantum singularity, a fixed point in spacetime where entropy itself is eternally balanced between death and rebirth. Chen understood then why their arrival had been predicted, why humanity's unique approach to quantum mechanics had been the key. They hadn't just ended a war. They'd created something entirely new. A perpetual anchor point in reality where the forces of entropy and creation existed in perfect harmony. All hands, she commanded, her voice carrying across all possible timelines. Prepare for quantum stabilization. We're not done yet. The Star Destroyer's quantum drive sang with impossible harmonics as they locked their position in spacetime. Around them, reality reshaped itself, creating a permanent sanctuary where the laws of physics themselves remembered how humanity had changed them. Hours later, as the temporal echoes finally settled and the quantum resonance stabilized, Chen stood with Zexthor on the observation deck, watching as ships from both the Concordat and the former collective worked together to study the miracle they created. Your ship will remain here, Zexthor said, its geometric patterns flowing with gentle light. A permanent monument at the heart of what we're calling the human nexus, the point where your species taught the universe itself a new way to exist. Chen smiled, thinking of the reports they'd send back to Earth. How do you explain to humanity that their first deep space mission had not only ended an 800,000-year war, but had fundamentally changed the nature of reality itself? We came looking for new frontiers, she said quietly. I'd say we found one. More than that, Zexthor replied. You've created one. This sector of space will forever bear the mark of humanity's contribution. A place where entropy and creation dance in eternal balance, where the very forces that threatened to end everything became the foundation for something new. As Chen watched the combined fleets working together, she realized that this was humanity's true gift to the universe. Not just the technology, not just the solution to an ancient war, but a new way of seeing reality itself. A perspective that turned endings into beginnings, that found harmony in chaos, and that proved that sometimes the greatest discoveries come not from force, but from learning to dance with the universe's deepest rhythms. The U.S. Star Destroyer would never return to Earth, but its legacy, humanity's legacy, would echo across space and time forever, a testament to the species that dared to see quantum mechanics not as a weapon, but as a conversation with reality itself.